What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Boo TV, here with my thoughts, where I was right, where I was wrong about the NBA playoffs thus far, and my revised takes and revised bracket, because as of right now, this has been a horrible first round based on my predictions. The two teams that I picked to go to the finals got eliminated in the first round, being the Denver Nuggets and the Boston Celtics. Now, if I put a check mark, that means I got the series correct, but I got the amount of games wrong. If I put a double check, that means I called the series in the correct amount of games. And the X obviously means I just called the series winner wrong altogether. All right, so recapping both the West and East, let's get into it. First round, Thunder and Suns. I picked the Thunder in a sweep, and that is absolutely what they did. The Thunder swept the garbage Phoenix Suns. Nothing more to say about that series. Lakers, Rockets. I picked the Lakers to win that series in 6, and that is exactly what they did. The Lakers won in 6. Now, with that being said, did I expect it to go exactly how it went? The Lakers going up 3-1 and the Rockets bringing it to game 6? No, I didn't think that would happen, but regardless, I called it correct. Like I said, I thought the Lakers were the better team with or without Kevin Durant, while everybody else thought the Lakers would get smoked just because they didn't have Luka and they didn't have Austin Reeves for at least the first couple games. But I said, regardless if they're missing one or two players, it doesn't change the fact that the Lakers are still better than them, even with just LeBron James and the ancillary pieces. They have guys good enough to step up into those roles. May not be as good as AR, may not be as good as Luka, but collectively, they can get the job done. Nuggets and Wolves. I picked the Nuggets to win that series in 6, and they absolutely got their asses handed to them. And one thing I said in the previous video when I was giving my thoughts on this series, I said I understand the Timberwolves have historically played the Denver Nuggets really good, but the Nuggets, in my opinion, had made some improvements since then. Roster, deeper roster, better bench. Joker's on fire. They were on fire coming into this series. The hottest team in the league. Well, yeah, all that out the window. The Minnesota Timberwolves still have their number despite being completely injury bitten, worse than the Nuggets by far, still handling the Nuggets without Antman. Absolutely disgusting by the Denver Nuggets. It was sad to see them go out this way, and they completely ruined my brackets. Thanks, Denver. San Antonio Spurs and the Portland Trail Blazers. I picked the Spurs to sweep this series. However, they did not sweep this series. The Portland Trail Blazers were able to get one game in a gentleman's sweep. But regardless, the Spurs handled business like I thought they should. Nothing more to be said about this. They were just clearly outclassed. But the Portland Trail Blazers, do have a bright future moving forward. I do believe. Moving over to the Eastern Conference, the Detroit Pistons and the Orlando Magic. Now, I picked Detroit in 5. We all know that they went down 3-1 and ended up coming all the way back and winning the series, forcing Game 7, and solidifying their spot as one of the top defensive teams in the league, because it was looking kind of iffy, especially offensively, more so than defense, to be honest with you. But they did what they had to do. They're a young team. They showed some poise. They showed some get back. They showed that no matter what, they can dig deep inside, come together as a team, and will themselves to victory one game at a time. And I think that was a good maturation process, if anything, for the Pistons, and they can only get stronger from here on out. So I called the series correctly, but definitely in the wrong amount of games. The Cleveland Cavaliers and the Toronto Raptors. I picked the Cavs in 5. That's another one that went 7. I did not give the Raptors enough credit. So my apologies, Toronto, for underestimating what your ball club is capable of, at least when it comes to the matchup against the Cleveland Cavaliers. At times, James Harden, par for course, was very disappointing, but like I said, kind of expect that from him. Couple games every series. And Donovan Mitchell had some disappointing performances in that series as well. Moving on, New York Knicks and the Atlanta Hawks. I picked the Knicks to win this in 6. And that is exactly what they did in 6. Enough said. Hawks, again, I think they have a bright future moving forward if they continue to make the right steps to bolster their roster, make some minor changes here and there, and then the remaining players allow them to mature and grow and get better. But that's up to the head office. Next, Boston Celtics and the 76ers. I picked the Celtics to win this in a sweep. I was under the impression that Joel Embiid probably wasn't going to be back. One thing I said in my previous videos, I completely understand if people disagree with me, and especially if Joel Embiid is there, because that changes the whole team. They're definitely stronger with Embiid, even though Embiid is not in his prime anymore and is really injury-ridden so often. Sometimes it's just, not going to say his fault, sometimes it's just freak accidents, wrong place, wrong time, and other times it may be like more soft tissue injuries, things like that. So, who knows? Regardless, the Boston Celtics were up 3-1. They have no excuse why they should have lost this series. And then one thing I said after they lost Game 5, I believe, I thought that was the pivotal game. That was their closeout game, and they gave the 76ers all the life in the world moving forward, and voila. I'm not going to get into that series. I didn't put a video out those last couple games because I was away, and I don't want to go back and talk about it. The Boston Celtics are abysmal. There were some horrible coaching decisions going into Game 7. Blew my mind, and the Boston Celtics had plenty of opportunities, even in Game 7 without Tatum. Live by the 3, die by the 3, and that's all I'm going to say about that. With that being said, I did call 6 of the 8 series correctly as far as winner and loser. However, why my brackets are so screwed, despite getting the majority correct, is that the 2 teams that lost, the 2 series I called incorrectly, had my 2 finalists in there for the championship round. So, yeah, that totally screwed everything up. With that being said, let's talk about these round 2 series matchups. Now, at this point, because I'm putting the video out late, each series has played at least one game, but my opinions and my thoughts are what they were prior to these series starting. So the results of those game 1s have nothing to do with what I'm about to say. Make that very clear. Thunder and Lakers. This is one I called correctly before, leading up into this rather. I picked the Thunder to sweep the Lakers in my original video, and I'm not going to revise that. They are still going to sweep the Lakers, in my opinion, especially with Luka Doncic not coming back. The Los Angeles Lakers are just outclassed. I think they may get close one of their home games, within 7 points, but I still don't think they'll be able to eke it out. And Austin Reeves has been abysmal since coming back, and I have more to say about that, but I'll put that in a different video probably. San Antonio Spurs and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, like I said, I originally had this Spurs and Nuggets, but the Nuggets are here, so now I have to give a revised bracket. With that being said, the Timberwolves are currently up 1-0 in this series, but I had picked the Spurs to win this in 6, and I am sticking by that decision. Spurs in 6, no question about it. Ultimately, I just think their team is deeper. I understand the Minnesota Timberwolves are coming with that grit, that toughness. The Minnesota Timberwolves seem to be this team that continues to defy the odds of the perceptions outside of the locker room. But I'm one of those people, I admit. And I just don't think they're going to beat the Spurs in this series. So I'm sticking to my guns. 4-2. San Antonio, I think they're too deep. The defense is tough, and they have a lot of different playmaking options, scores, and they have a bona fide clutch player in De'Aaron Fox. I like their chances. Detroit Pistons and Cavaliers. Previously, I picked the Pistons to beat the Cavs in 6, and I'm sticking to my guns. While the Cavaliers never went down 3-1, Detroit still impressed me more by what they were able to do in their 7-game series than the Cavaliers finishing the Raptors in 6. And I just think matchup-wise, the Cavaliers' offense seems to be inconsistent. One or both of their stars tend to not show up from game to game, and I know one thing for sure is that Detroit Pistons defense is always going to be consistent. So you get a game with the Detroit's defense and the lacklusterness by the backcourt of the Cleveland Cavaliers, I think those could end up being some catastrophic losses for Cleveland. And the only thing I'm worried about Detroit is if their offense is going to hold fort. I know their defense is going to, but can they get the points up? And if Jalen Duren would actually show up for once, maybe they could. This guy should be at least 20 points per game. He's barely breaking 10, it seems like. He should be a walking 20-point double-double. And now the New York Knicks and the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, I like the 76ers with Embiid. They have a hell of a starting lineup and a decent bench. But I feel like Coach seems to be running the starters very, 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 very much. Heavy minutes. I don't know how well that's going to bode for Embiid and how long he can keep up. The thing about Embiid is you got to finish these series quickly with Embiid because he's on a timer. He's a ticking time bomb about when that next injury is coming up. And watching, I think it was Game 7 versus the Boston Celtics, I swore the guy got hurt like 4 or 5 times. He's wincing the whole series, like physically, visibly, in pain. And I'm like, it's only a matter of time for the Philadelphia 76ers are going to lose Embiid to something. I don't know. Lower back, knee, foot, big toe, calf. I don't know. But the guy just, I don't know if he's built for the tempo of this league. I don't know what it is. But it would behoove the 76ers to finish this quickly if they are going to finish this. And Embiid's minutes should definitely be monitored. But regardless, I'm picking the Knicks to win this series with or without Joel Embiid. And I'm going to pick the New York Knicks to win this in 6. Top to bottom, I just think New York has the better collection of players. I think Karl Anthony Towns' ability to shoot from the outside will be very important in dragging Joel Embiid out the paint. Now, do I think Cat should be shooting a bunch of threes, like everything be a long jump shot in its repertoire? No. I think he should definitely look to get closer to the basket. Bang with Embiid a little bit. Test his body out. Use his length. Use his superior speed and athleticism that he has over Joel Embiid. Even if Cat's playing face up from outside the box, Embiid is hurt. Embiid is slow. So Cat has the foot speed to work Joel Embiid, even if he's face up or face up, pivot, into post, whatever. Physically, Cat has a huge advantage. Not talking about raw strength. I'm talking about versatility, agility. Use it to your advantage. And definitely, when the situation warrants it, drag him out the paint. Tyrese Maxey and Jalen Brunson is going to be a fun matchup to watch. No question about that. And Tobias Harris and Paul George going against, OG, Mikal Bridges, them boys. That's all going to be fun to watch too. I think those are pretty evenly matched. And Tobias Harris has been probably the most consistent player on the Philadelphia 76ers. I think it'll be a fun series. I think it'll be a great series. But New York Knicks, they have home court advantage as well. New York in 6. I definitely think they are hungry to get to the Eastern Conference Finals and test their wits against the Detroit Pistons. Dear God, I almost forgot. I have to give my updated predictions on the conference finals and the finals now. I literally almost forgot that. So now for the Western Conference Finals, we would be having, based on my predictions, the Oklahoma City Thunder versus the San Antonio Spurs. Now, if you remember correctly, the Spurs had the Thunder's number in the regular season, and I believe they won the majority of those games, if I'm not mistaken. And while that may be true, I'm going to pick the Thunder to win this series in 7. I definitely think home court advantage has something to do about it. And while Victor Wembanyama definitely makes things more difficult for the Oklahoma City Thunder, ultimately I do believe that their experience and their championship pedigree will win out over the San Antonio Spurs in the series, and especially in key moments of the games down the stretch. And they have a guy named SGA that I could depend on more than anybody in the series in the clutch. Yes, even more than De'Aaron Fox. I will put my faith in SGA to make timely buckets time after time after time after time. Even if Wemby has that paint on lock, Shea doesn't have to get to the cup. He's a mid-range assassin. But we also have Chet, who has a ability to shoot the outside ball, shoot the three ball, just like Wemby can, to bring Wemby out the paint if necessary. But we will see. I like the fact that San Antonio Spurs has a lot of different playmakers, guys that you can put the ball in their hands and they can create shots for themselves and others as well. The OKC Thunder doesn't have as many players that can do that, but outside of Shea, they do all pass the ball very well and will largely do it by committee, by hot potatoing that ball around. They have phenomenal chemistry. So yeah, OKC is going to the finals. On the other end, we have the Pistons versus the New York Knicks. Now, this one I thought about for a long time, and I really almost did pick the New York Knicks, especially given how they've played the last 3 or 4 games in dominating fashion. But while hats off to the Knicks, I think that also has something to say about the competition as well. And I don't think the Pistons are the Atlanta Hawks or are what we saw from the Philadelphia 76ers in game 1. Therefore, I'm going to have to make my decision based off what I've seen in the regular season. And what I've seen between these two teams in the regular season is complete domination. Has the Knicks probably gotten better since then? Yeah. Have the Detroit Pistons grown and got better since then? Absolutely. And the Pistons dominated the Knicks in the regular season. I mean, all the games they played weren't particularly close. I don't know what the average is, the average margin of victory in those games, but it had to be between 15 and 20 points at a minimum. There were blowouts. So there are some glaring issues there about these matchups, and I think a lot of it has to do with the Detroit Pistons locking the New York Knicks down on the defensive end, and with Jalen Brunson being the catalyst for their offense, if you can neutralize him, make it harder for him to score, but also make it harder for him to get the pass off to find players. And as long as the Detroit Pistons keep rotating, they'll have those other guys on lock and make it difficult for them who's on the receiving end of the pass. So I'm going to have to go with the evidence that I've seen in the regular season. And I know the playoffs is different, but that is overwhelming evidence. I'm picking the Detroit Pistons. And I think we will see Karl Anthony Towns look more like what we've seen from him in games where he plays soft. I call him the little kitty cat. Meow, meow. Karl Anthony Towns, a kitty cat. Meow, meow. Yeah, I think the Detroit Pistons will turn cat into the real cat. Meow, meow. So that brings us to the NBA Finals. OKC versus Pistons. I'm picking the Thunder in 6. I don't think this will go 7. Why? Because the Thunder are an extremely good defensive team, but they can also put points on the board. And that's something that the Detroit Pistons do not have. Excellent defensive team, but they're sus in the offensive category. And the Oklahoma City Thunder are just too strong on both ends of the floor. Matchups be damned, but I don't really think the Detroit Pistons have a significant edge over the Thunder in any category of basketball, and I don't really see any matchups where they will be able to exploit the Oklahoma City Thunder and make it so much harder for them to score on the offensive end of the basketball. I have to go with the Thunder. I don't even think 7. I can't even go 7, yo. I can't. I think the Spurs will give the Thunder more of a matchup than the Detroit Pistons will. And I rest my case. Folks, that's all I got to say about it. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What were you right in? What were you wrong in? Share with me your opinions. I'll catch you on the next one. Happy second rounding. Good luck to your team if they're still in it. We out, baby.